What's good, party people? We are 10 seconds out. We are 5 seconds out. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the DJ Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I see a bunch of people on the check-in early. I love the early check-ins. I'll be kind of reading this a couple minutes before I click in. Papa Sincere, what up? Gregory Nettis, always here. Regular, what up? GF Worrell, what up? Daryl D from Baltimore, Black Liberty Sound, peace from Baltimore. Diaper 1CL crew, what up? These are regulars. Spook Round 4Q, what up, is in the building. Haitian Space Program, one of my favorite names on here. What's good? Spook Realm has an interesting question to pop it off. I'm gonna see if I can get back to that. JT, what up? Peace and blessings. Don Marazuti, I mess up your name every week. I'm probably gonna mess it up every week, but peace. What's good? MMA Crossfire, regulars in the building. Danielle, the Don Freeman, what up? I said DJ Platform 204. This is my best part of the week right here. Much love from Canada. Much love. Boy, Canada, y'all really on fire in hip-hop right now. Crown Jewels Music Group, yo. Eric Jackson, what up? BDP, Rosmel, what up? FU2, all the regulars in the building. You know, and I like seeing the regular names. I always get a kick out of that. And I always say thank you to the people who tune in every week. And thank you to the people who tune in on the rewind later on. You guys are the backbone of this channel. And this is why I do this. I love it. We're trying to take this live chat to the next level. Let me shout out Fluffy Toenails. Haven't seen you in here in a while. H. Bippy, shout you out. Robbie the Danger, what's good? Earl Green, Anthony August, what up? Somebody asked this question, but I'm going to click it on right here. Chris Bergs, your thoughts on K. Dre diss songs? I don't like to pile on the comments. And let me say this. I've never really been a fan of dissing. And I know battling is as part of hip hop culture as anything. And this is coming, and I'm coming from the group who invented battling on wax, BDP. But I've never been a fan of it because I've seen behind the scenes, y'all, of what goes on in these battles. And it's rarely on wax, stays on wax. And a lot of things happen behind the scenes. Some people get hurt. Some people potentially get hurt. There's confrontations. There's times when a mediator has to step in. And if the mediator didn't step in, some serious things are going to happen. And I see this stuff behind the scenes, and I'm not really a fan. I'm a fan of the battling part, like the movie 8 Mile. I wish like dudes battled like that. Live on stage, one beat, 2 mics, one crowd, let's see. That I enjoy that kind of battle rap. That to me is a sport, but the other stuff that comes with it kind of takes away from it, in my opinion. And as we've seen over the years, the violence that it's led to, leading up to, we lost 2 giants in Tupac and the Notorious B.I.G. And I feel that hip hop has never recovered from the loss of those 2 icons. So, and with that being said, my thoughts on K-Doc and Drake, it's gotten really ugly. I mean, some of the accusations that are being put out there is even beyond music. You know, it's not, now it's no longer even who's the nicest on the mic. It's who can dig up the most dirt. It's like who got the best private investigator. And there's some really, really nasty accusations floating around going out there. It doesn't even have to be true. I don't know if it's true or false, but it's nasty. And also, last thing on this, back in the day, battles had more at stake. If you look at back in the day, the loser of a rap battle, pretty much their career was over. And that's why there weren't a lot of battles back in the day, because you had a lot to lose. And rap was relatively new. When the battles really started getting going in the late 80s, early 90s, rap was still new and you had a lot to lose. Like the audience would pick a side and the person who lost was probably over. You look at the careers of the people who were perceived to have lost a battle, and their careers were over. Nowadays, I don't think people's careers are over. You say something, I say something, you say something. We go on Twitter, we go on Instagram, we go back and forth, and then it dies down and we get back to the regularly scheduled program. So with that being said, I don't know if the same things are at stake. Like win or lose of Drake versus K. Dot, they're both probably going to come out with more music and their fans are going to be their fans and it'll just keep on. And we talked about this about a month ago. How is J. Cole looking right now? People were dissing him before, but now looking at all the ugliness, it looked like he just said, you know what, let me ease out of this nastiness before it gets to be what it became. So I'd love for people to revisit J. Cole now a month later and see if he made the right decision. All right, I've said enough. Let's scroll down. Ross Kofi, what up? The Mind 999, Patterson in the building. Shout out to Patterson. I tell a story in my video. I did a video, BDP versus Biz Marquee, on this channel about a year ago. And I talk about a story about me and Biz hanging out in Patterson, New Jersey. And I wasn't ready for Patterson, New Jersey. That's all I'm going to say. I wasn't ready. I don't want to say too much because YouTube flagged me for my comments. I had to go back and forth with YouTube on my comments on that. Imperial Jada MC, what up? Corey Flood, what up? Connecticut, the regulars are here. Damon Clark. Yo, Kenny, we need a part 2 to that Ced Gee interview. Yeah, that Ced Gee interview got a lot of comments, a lot of support. Thank you to everybody out there that checked out the Ced Gee interview and the Just Ice interview from 3 weeks ago. Excuse me. Yeah, maybe we'll have Ced Gee on for part 2. One thing I gotta say about that Ced Gee interview, Ced Gee had a lot of controversial takes in that interview. He even made some very serious accusations. I should have said when he was speaking, allegedly. I didn't say allegedly. I'm not one here to try to stifle anyone's opinions. We respect all opinions on this channel. But I got flagged on YouTube as well for a comment that Ced Gee said in that live last week, and I had to edit a little piece out because YouTube was on top of me. So I got to really watch what I say and what people say on the channel. But yeah, that Ced Gee was dope. Shout out to my man Ced Gee. We go back over 30 years. And speaking of that, I got some nice people that have confirmed to come on to the DJ Kenny Parker show. I can't say who they are yet because although they have confirmed that they're coming on, we still got to work out the time to get them here on a Tuesday. Or, so we just got to confirm if it'll work for them. But we got confirmations that some very interesting guests are going to be coming on the show. I can't wait. I hope you guys enjoy that. E-Money, DJ Kenny P, what's good? Crown Jewels Music Group, regular names come with love. Yes. Shout to all the regulars, man. Some of you guys been here since I first jumped on this live about a year ago, and I just was coming on just to say what's up, but I'm going to try to expand this live channel and see where we can take it. Earl Green, Durham, North Carolina is in the building. Salute North Carolina. We did 1,000,000 shows in North Carolina. Corey Flood said the next guest should be Cool DJ Red Alert. How great would that be? He is not one of the people that I have spoke to, but I'm going to reach out to him. I know Red Alert doesn't do a lot of interviews, but if I can get him to talk about at least the BDP, his time with BDP, that would be really, really fantastic. Red Alert is one of my DJ heroes. I'm going to put one of his pictures up on this wall. I don't really have much space here in this little box. I might have some spaces on the bottom. I might put a couple of people. The people that you see here on my walls are my my inspirations. And Red Alert would be fantastic. That's my dude. Such a radio DJ icon. The Colonel James, what's good? Peace. FE2 says that rap beef is so weak and corny. It's the new generation, man. They express themselves the way they express themselves. You know, we expressed ourselves the way we expressed ourselves. And like I said, BDP being in the midst of a whole bunch of drama, which reminds me that I have not done any of my stories in a while. I still have a ton of stories to get to, y'all, and even some beefs. I kind of slowed down on the beefs because I really didn't like talking about beefs too much on this channel because, like I said, some things should be left in the past. Like, you know, some beefs, you know, with BDP, we eventually, everybody made up and now everybody are friends. And if I dig up some old stuff that happened 25, 30 years ago, I might be opening a can of worms. So I got to be careful which beefs I bring up. That's A. And B, when I bring up beef videos, if you guys look on my channel, you notice that I get like probably 10 times the amount of traffic to this channel when I talk about beefs. And it brings a bunch of weirdos to the channel. And, you know, I want to attract, you know, attention to the channel, but I want like-minded people to come to the channel. And, you know, be some real weirdos come to the channel when I do beefs. I'm not afraid of the weirdos or their comments, but I just notice it. And third of all, you know, a couple of the people who I've mentioned in beefs have said I'm lying and I'm not telling the truth. Like I always said, I stand by every single thing that I say on this channel. I don't speak on things that I don't know. Just about everything that I speak on this channel, I saw with my own 2 eyes, or I got it from a very credible source, meaning the person that told me saw it with their own 2 eyes, and they told me in a reasonable time frame. So I stand by everything I say on this channel, but I got to be real careful with the beefs that I talk about. Some of the beefs we had at BDP are so unbelievable that I don't even bring them up because you guys wouldn't believe me if I told you. And a couple of them are going to be gigantic. Like I think it's going to be like break the internet type beefs that people don't even know happened. But yeah, these new rap beefs, I just hope nobody gets hurt. I saw on the news that there was an incident at Drake's house last night. I hope it's not related to the beefs, but I'm just not a fan of it because it just turns into too much, man. FE2 says, Drake big trash. He's got talent, but I can't listen to him. I would never call Drake trash. Drake is a very, very talented songwriter and hit maker. And it is very difficult to make a hit record. I haven't really talked about it that much on this channel, but, you know, I don't like the term one-hit wonder. I think that's a terrible term, and it has a connotation meaning that's all you got. Like this person he only made 1 hit. He's a one-hit wonder. It is so difficult to make a hit record. I once saw a stat that said something like 60% of all the records, 60 to 70% of all the albums that come out, that have ever come out in the history of music, we're talking over 100 years, we're talking over 1 million records, different titles, have not sold more than 250 copies. 250 copies is not even your high school. That's about 60, 70%. 80% of the records have never sold 1,000 copies. If you sell 1,000 copies of a song or an album, you are in the upper 20 percentile range to sell 1,000 copies. To go gold and platinum, or even to make money in this game, is so rare. To have a hit record is almost impossible. It's like winning the lottery. So many things have to line up for you to make a hit record that it's almost, the odds are stacked against you. But we get jaded when we see people like Jay-Z or Nas or Snoop or Cube or Pac make all of these hit records for a long period of time. We get jaded to think that's what it is. No, that's not what it is. For every time you see one Jay-Z, there's hundreds of thousands of people that sold 250 records and lost their shirt. And I say that to say Drake, you can say what you want to say about his rhyme style, his singing, whatever. In this era, Drake has dominated music like nobody else has in the past 10 years. And for that, you have to give him credit. You have to. And I'm one of the people who believe that Drake would have been successful even in the 90s, even in the hardest era when it was hard to make records, when it was the hardest to be an MC. I think Drake would have succeeded because he knows how to make songs. I'm not saying Drake would have been the biggest rapper out or been what he did in this era, but I think he would have been successful because I can name a couple of artists who, to me, remind me of what Drake was doing back in the early 90s, and we give them love. And I think he probably would have been one of those guys, singing, rapping. So I'm not going to call Drake trash. That's just my opinion. There's people that don't like him or don't like listening to him. That's fine. But the dude has made dozens of legitimate hit records, man. That's very, very difficult. Let me scroll down a bit. Tony Muhammad, what up? Kennard Roberts, what's up, man? He said, who sparked the leatherwear that Chris wore? Was it Just Ice? That's a good question. Back in those days, that was the early days of the Dapper Dan suits. There used to be a legendary tailor in Harlem named Dapper Dan. And he used to make all kind of custom-made suits for people with money, the drug dealers, athletes, and upcoming rappers. And he had like a bunch of different cloths like Gucci, MCM, Louis Vuitton, and he'll make whole outfits for you. And I do believe BDP was the very first artist to rock Dapper Dan on the cover of their album, because I believe that BDP, Criminal Minded, came out a little before Eric B. and Rakim Paid in Full. I think they had on Dapper Dan suits too. And I gotta look at the Fat Boys. I'm not sure what they had on, but I believe BDP was the first to rock Dapper Dan. So I don't know if it was Just Ice who inspired Chris, but it was definitely Dapper Dan that was making the outfits for everybody. J. Reed, whatever they got going on isn't a battle. They're just rapping about each other. Yeah, basically. I totally agree with the 8 Mile theory. Yeah, they're not really they're not battling for lyrical superiority. There's no lyrical superiority. You can't say one rapper is better than the other based on his battle. It's whose lifestyle was the worst, whose dirt, who's been living the foulest. Oh man, it's bad. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. This is good. FE2 says that rap beef turning into real beef always seems idiotic to me. Pointless violence. Usually, very young black people get hurt when someone gets hurt due to rap beef. Yeah, because you got a lot of street guys. Here's the thing: if people don't know, most rappers, especially back in the day, this is the era before hired security. Now these days, rappers have so much money and there's so much money at stake that rappers hire professional security and off-duty police officers, off-duty detectives, real security to secure their safety. Back in the day, you didn't have that. You had street dudes with you, dudes from your block, whoever was holding you down. Some dudes are getting extorted by certain dudes, and they were around for protection. I'm not going to get into that too much, but yeah. And these street dudes, that's how they solve things. So you have two crews come in a building, say two people are beefing, and the two artists come in the building, they're going to be 15 deep each. So you'll see the two artists who might have beef, and then you'll see their entourage. And I guarantee all it takes is one dirty look, one step on a toe, and it's on. And that's usually how it happens. Usually it's not the rappers that get in the beefs, it's the entourages. And somebody gets hurt. Always. Firmino, the Mind 999. I remember hoping Chris stepped to Nelly on the Summer Jam stage. That was one of the stupidest beefs ever. Just stupid, and it started off of stupidness, and I never really liked it. It didn't go anywhere, but I just thought it was stupid. One day I'm going to get into that a little bit more, but I wasn't directly involved with it, because by this point, I was around, but I wasn't involved in it, but I was around it. I'm the one who told Chris that Nelly dissed him. Actually, I'm the one that heard it on the radio and called him. But there was stuff going on a little bit before that. I just thought it was stupid, to tell you the truth. Gregory Netta says Drake is garbage. Kendrick is the best MC. Word up, son. Maybe. LL versus Moe Dee. I'll tell you an interesting story about LL versus Moe Dee that I saw. If you guys want to hear it, here it go. Back in 1988, in the heights of the LL Moe Dee beef, when Moe Dee had How You Like Me Now, and I think LL had Jack the Ripper. I think Jack the Ripper was out. I was hanging out with my brother on the Dope Jam tour that was going around the country. It was Ice-T, Biz Markie, BDP, Kool Moe Dee, Dougie Fresh, Eric B. and Rakim. Dope ass lineup, sold out every night. One of the shows, Kool Moe Dee was up there performing Wild Wild West. He was doing his hits, and LL Cool J was in the building. And LL came around the stage, and actually somehow security let LL come up onto the stage. And LL was standing on the side of the stage with his arms crossed, just looking at Kool Moe Dee. He had the Kango on, the whole thing. This is in front of like 20,000. And Moe Dee is doing Wild Wild West, and he's doing his rhymes, but he's looking at LL, but he's doing his show, and LL's just standing there looking at him. And I'm like, oh, this could be history. But the only thing that happened was Moe Dee, in the break of one of the songs, Moe Dee said, "Yo, boy, you keep standing there. We're going to do this for real." He said it to LL. And I was like, ooh. But nothing happened. LL just was just standing there looking at him. And then I guess LL went off stage. I guess he just wanted people to see like he was in the building or whatever. But I thought it was going to go down, but it didn't. Shout out to Moe Dee. I consider Moe Dee a great friend. As is LL. Me and LL Cool J are super cool. I don't know him as well as I know Moe Dee, but me and LL have had a chance to sit down and chop it up on a plane ride to Los Angeles. We had a great conversation, and it was all good. I'm glad that's one of them beefs that didn't get violent. Although I heard when LL made To the Break of Dawn, y'all remember that record? That diss record kind of gets lost in the diss records. That record was fire. And he dissed LL. No, LL dissed Hammer, Ice-T, and Moe Dee. And I do believe Ice-T, as I recall it, was going to take it to another level. And let me just say that for YouTube. Ice-T was going to take it to another level. And a mediator came in and squashed that. So that could have escalated. And that's what I be talking about. People don't really know, but that's what I'm saying. Things happen behind the scenes. Nev Ed Official, Drake wouldn't have survived the 90s because the culture wasn't as industry as it is now. If Push destroyed Drake back then like he did in 2018, he would have been done. I don't know if Push destroyed Drake, in my opinion, because Drake never responded. He just, Drake is very strategic. He lets some things just slide by, and he addresses some things, which you're supposed to do. I think Drake would have absolutely survived the 90s. That's just my opinion. Based on hit records, just based on emceeing, I think Drake would have been okay. Everybody in the 90s was not dope. Let's get that misconception out of here too. We talk about the 90s. There was whack MCs in the 90s too. Just that, in my opinion, the cream of the crop of the 90s was as good as it ever was in the history of rap. But there was whackness too. There was mediocrity. I think Drake's ability to make songs would have had him survive the 90s for sure. That's just my opinion. Super Rap asks, "Hey Kenny, is K Prime Chris's son?" Yes, Prime. Shout out to Prime. That's Chris Jr., who DJ'd for Chris for many years. He actually replaced me as a DJ. Shout out to my nephew. Wherever you are, shout out to Prime. That's my dude. This is an interesting comment. Anderson Felt, "I need to see Scott LaRock Jr. into the show alone with your brother Chris." I don't think that's going to happen on this show alone, not on the DJ Kenny Parker show. And there's a lot to say on that subject. I say this all the time on this channel. There's a lot to say on this. I have a lot to say on that subject, but I'm not going to get into it. It's not my place to get into it yet. But whenever KRS addresses that situation, believe me, y'all, there's a lot more to say in that. But I'm gonna leave that alone for now, because I directly have nothing to do with that. but indirectly I do. And I wish I could talk about it, but I can't. Tony Muhammad says, true indeed, J. Cole recognized that it wasn't worth it. Um, J. Cole, I don't know if he saw where it was going. I don't know if he spoke to Drake or K. Dot and saw where they were headed with it or whatever, but he just said, I'm just stepping out of this. And I said a few months ago, I said I respected his decision that if he wasn't about this battle life, that I respected his decision as a mature man to step out of it. And I said I thought it would hurt his career, his credibility as an MC when he starts talking about what he would do to MCs. I thought it would hurt his credibility because when an MC really stepped up, he decided to bow out. But now looking at it, I mean, I don't know. Cole sometimes not saying anything might be I don't know. I don't know. Let me scroll down a little bit. Philette Edmond, peace to the true and living. Yes, respect to you and peace. Yeah, JDLV. J. Cole made the correct decision for him. He knew it wasn't, he knew it was going to go in a whole other direction. Exactly. And, you know, maybe he wasn't about all of that digging up dirt life. Maybe he had some dirt that he didn't want to come out. Maybe he was just too mature. I don't know. That's a good question. I agree with that, though. Stephen Moles. Hey, Kenny, what did you think of Rockwell Noel and the Poet Beat You Down and All Hell's Breaking Loose dissing BDP? I don't know what All Hell's Breaking Loose is, but I remember, I tell you a story about that song, Beat You Down, the Poet. I went to Chris's house. I do believe this was either late 87 or early 88. And by this point, the whole Juice Crew, MC Shan, KRS had died down. By All Means Necessary album was out. Chris had moved on. Everybody was like moving in the other direction. I went to Chris's house and I got there and Chris wasn't home yet. So it was just me and Miss Melody. Rest in peace to Miss Melody. Was there chilling. I was there chilling, waiting for Chris to get home. It was late too. It was like 11 o'clock. And I was there chilling. And we were listening to WBLS, New York City, Mr. Magic and Marley Marl. We had it on the radio. Miss Melody had it on. And that song, Beat You Down, comes on. And me and Miss Melody was listening to it for the first time. And I remember her saying, oh, he dissed me. Oh, he dissed me, like that. She was like going like that. Like, oh, he dissed me. She was not happy. I remember that. And when Chris got home, I remember that, you know, that's the first thing was like, yo, this dude made a song, blah, blah, blah. Chris, I don't know if he knew about it already. It didn't seem like he knew about it because Miss Melody had no idea. And I think she caught a stray in that record. And I was right there when it happened. So just a little quick story for you guys. Daryl D, Phoenix, all up in here. Peace to Phoenix. MMA Crossfighter. Just Ice and Ced Gee conversations were very interesting. Thank you very much. I try to do a little bit of digging, try to get a little technical when I talk to people, get a little behind the scenes. I love behind the scenes stuff and, you know, more details. I like to get more details. That's just me. This is an interesting question. Marty McCrypto. I like that name. Hey, KP, did anyone who beefed with BDP ever respond to him by singing? Off the top of my head, I'm going to say no. There has not been a lot of responses to KRS-ONE beefs. It has not been a lot. It's been subliminals, but there has not been a lot of direct records about KRS-ONE. Not that many artists. I think Nelly, Nelly said his stuff. Cannabis made a record. Some local MCs might have jumped in the mix, but it's never really been too many people that even responded to KRS-ONE. And by singing, that would have been dope. In a live battle, that would have been crazy. Oh. Let me scroll down a little bit. Jamil Live, what up? Gregory Ness, Kenny, have you ever went to Babu nightclub in Hempstead, Long Island? No. Let me scroll down a little bit. I'll be missing some of the comments. After I sign off, y'all, I'll be checking out the comments after the fact, and I'll be like, I missed that one. I would have liked to have talked about that. So I'm going to see most of the comments after, but right now I'm just going to scroll down and see. Imperial J the MC says, it's the Bronx in the house. Shout out to anybody from the BX. Henry Munez, peace, Kenny, DMV in the house. Shout out to the DMV. Let me see. Tony Muhammad said, DJ Red Alert is one of the most beautiful brothers I've ever met in the world of hip hop. I agree. Not only do I look up to DJ Red Alert as a DJ icon, but he's also just a great man, in my opinion. Just a great man. Anthony Gus says, what are your top 5 greatest rap battles? Woo! So let me give some criteria. First of all, to me, there had to have been consequences. Like a winner, a perceived winner, loser, where like somebody's career was never the same. I needed to be big artists who were like on equal footing, equal stature or close to it. I'm going to go, 5 is tough, but I'm going to go, first I got to go Busy Bee and Cool Moe Dee. That tape was ridiculous. For those that didn't hear the Cool Moe Dee versus Busy Bee battle, that I heard that tape 2 years after the battle happened, and it blew my mind. And of course, the KRS and MC Shan, that's the battle that really invented the genre as we know it today. That's 2. LL Cool Moe Dee, they never really, I mean, Cool Moe Dee made Jack the Ripper was out. Cool Moe Dee made the record where he used all the LLs, the L and the lyrical, the liquor. I forgot the name of the record. I'm going to skip that one. That beef was cool, but Ice Cube, NWA. I believe that after No Vaseline, NWA was never the same. I believe after that song, we never heard from NWA ever again, if you recall. After that song, the next thing you know, Dre was solo. And Ren dropped his solo EP soon thereafter. I saw Ice Cube do that live before it came out. Ice Cube did a show at the Apollo Theater in New York City and tore it down. And at the end of his show, he did an a cappella rhyme. And he did the first verse to No Vaseline in New York City. And the crowd went crazy. So I'm going to put Ice Cube against NWA as my third. I'm going to go Big and Pac was obviously the biggest, I think the biggest, most nationally recognized two titans battling with horrible results. Even though Big never really answered Pac, we didn't hear the answers. They say Big made records that never came out, but Hit 'Em Up. I remember the first time I heard Hit 'Em Up, y'all, I was coming out of a club in New Jersey, and me and my boys, shout out to my man Jetta, shout out to Coop. We all of us was coming out of this club, and some dude was in the parking lot blasting the system, and he was playing Hit 'Em Up, and we stopped. It was like, yo, dude, we didn't even know this dude. It was like, yo, what is that? He was like, yo, this is new Tupac. And we stood there and listened to it, and we was like, yo, rewind that back. Yo, like, we talking to this dude we didn't even know. And he rewound it back, and we made him rewind this back like 5 times. Yo, I couldn't believe the venomous Tupac delivery was so venomous, especially the end where he was like, my fofo, make sure all your kids don't grow. Like the way he was talking, you could feel the venom in his voice. And when I got home, I realized that I had got some records in the mail from Interscope, Death Row, under the name Machiavelli. So I didn't even open it. I thought it was a new artist on Death Row, so I didn't even open it. But when I got home, I looked at it, and I believe the A side was either Toss It Up or How Do You Want It. Can't remember, one of those 2 songs was on the A side, but on the B side was Hit 'Em Up. So I actually had this record in my crib. I just had not opened it yet because I thought Machiavelli was a new artist on Death Row. And I listened to that record like 100 times. I couldn't believe it. I'm going to put that as my 4th and probably the biggest beef ever. And 5, Jay-Z and Nas, which is also 2 titans that really, and you know, there was a timeline and a build up and the Summer Jam when Jay-Z said it was a build up, and there was strays in it, like Moe Dee caught strays, and you know, and then Jay-Z dropped the Takeover, which was ridiculous. And I was like, Nas is done. Nas was in the grave. They was nailing nails on the coffin of Nas. And then Ether came out. And I remember when Ether came out, Hot 97 wouldn't play it. And they was just like, we're not going to play anything dissing Jay-Z. But Wendy Williams, on her show on WBLS Down the Dial, kept playing Ether over and over and over. And that's how it got big. Shout out to Wendy Williams. She kept playing that song. And to the point where people was like, yo, and of course Jay responded and the whole thing. But the greatness of Jay-Z, I think only Jay-Z could have recovered from Ether. I think anybody else, that would have been a career-ending song. But Jay-Z recovered from that. And that's incredible. So those are my 5. Moe Dee, Busy B, BDP, Shan, NWA, Ice Cube, Big Pac, Jay-Z, Nas. That's me, the greatest battles ever. E-Money says, it's been a minute since you put out an epic fail. When is the next one coming? I'm probably going to do one this week, y'all. I've been focusing so much on the lives and trying to get, the lives up and running that I've kind of put the epic fails and the other stories in the back burner, but I'm going to get to that too, y'all. But yeah, that's a great question. I have not forgot about that. I'm just trying to take the lives to another level because I like talking to people about hip hop. And like I said before, I see interviews with certain artists that I like, and certain interviewers don't get the information that I need when I'm watching. I feel like I'll watch an interview for like 2 hours and I don't feel like I've got what I need. So my goal is to try to get more details out of the artists that I like, that I bring on the channel. I'm not saying I'm Larry King, but I'm going to try my best, y'all. Dartmouth says, do you add hi-hats over your snares? Sometimes. Smooth Criminal. Was there ever a comeback for The Bridge Is Over? No. Shan never responded to that record. I never understood that. Shantae responded. That's the Shantae did Have a Nice Day. Big Daddy Kane wrote her diss. And Kane called Chris and told Chris the diss was coming. It's crazy. Let me scroll down a little bit. Takashi Mandela, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. I really appreciate it. As always, you are a big supporter of the channel. DJ Kenny Parker, peace, my brother, man. I hope you're doing well. Yes, I am. Do you have any guru stories? Any stories about the Gangstar Foundation? Stories. I don't know if I have a guru story. I have more Premier stories. I met them. Well, how I met Premier, first of all, I met them. You remember when they had that first single in 1989, These Are the Words That I Manifest. Everybody knows that song on this channel. We're a knowledgeable channel here. I was just starting to DJ at that point in 89. I was traveling with BDP, but I was not the DJ yet. I was actually the production assistant working under Rebecca Foster. For those of you that know Rebecca Foster, shout out to Rebecca. I was her assistant with BDP. So I was traveling with my brother, but I was working. But I would always, people that opened up for the BDP, I always would gravitate towards the DJ for some reason, because I was just learning how to DJ myself at that point. So we did a show in Chicago, and it was BDP, and the opening act was Gangstar. And I remember we had a big giant set. We used to have a backdrop that said Ghetto Music, the cover of Ghetto Music. It was like 2 stories high and like half a block long. It covered the whole back of the stage, and we had the turntables were elevated, and there was a live bass player. It was a whole BDP production. And then this group Gangstar had this little set. They gave him like a little set along off to the side. And I remember noticing that. And I remember that was back when everybody used to call Guru Gangstar. Do you remember that? When Gangstar first came out, we all thought that Gangstar was the name of the MC. So like if you saw Keith, you'd be like, yo, what's up, Gangstar? Like that's MC Gangstar. Like back then, he wasn't even the guru. People weren't calling him the guru or anything like that. That was Gangstar. Gangstar was one person. So I was looking at Gangstar perform and their DJ Premier. So after the show, I walked up to DJ Premier and I said, hey, I'm Kenny Parker. I'm KRS brother. I really like your song, Word That I Manifest, blah, blah, blah. And he was super cool. And we struck up a friendship that day in 89. So afterwards, I would see Guru all the time because I've mentioned on this channel a lot that I used to hang out a lot. Once I discovered that if you were in a rap group, you could get into clubs for free, I was an animal in these New York City streets. So I used to be out all the time. And as I used to hang out, I used to see certain people all the time. I used to see Guru all the time. His name was Gangstar then. I used to see Guru all the time in the clubs. He was mad cool. And I didn't see DJ Premier didn't hang out as much. The reason why, what made me and Premier get even closer, one day I'm gonna bring this up to Preem. By 1990, end of 1990, now I'm the DJ of BDP by this point. And we had a show, we used to have a party in SOBs. There's a club called SOBs in New York City. They still open, everybody has performed there, but we used to have a night called the Kenny Parker Show. I used to DJ. Chris used to get on the mic sometimes and just freestyle. Jamal Ski used to be on the mic all the time. And everybody used to be there. Tribe, they were new. Latifah used to be there. Rosie Perez, the actress, used to be there. Like everybody used to come to SOBs on a Wednesday night to the Kenny Parker Show. And there was this one night that it was a birthday party and we performed and Nice and Smooth and Gangstar performed. And DJ Premier was DJing for Gangstar and Nice and Smooth. So I remember he was about to go on and I had my needles on. He said, I said to him, do you want to switch the needles? And he said, hold up. And he put a record on. He went, zig, zig, zig. He's like, nah, I'm going to leave your needles on. I like how, his exact words were, I like how your needles are sticking to the record, which made me feel good that this guy, DJ Premier, thought my needles were up to par. You know what I mean? As DJ to DJ, that's a big respect for another DJ to say, no, I'm not going to put my needles on. I'm going to leave your needles on because they're working. So that was dope. After the show, they did this show. Everything was dope. Everybody left. And the night, DJ Premier had left his needles in SOBs. So I'm like, damn. And at that time, needles in the cartridges were like $120 maybe each. So you're looking at like $200 something to replace them. And this is in 1990, so that's probably like $500 right now. So I was like, yo, I'm gonna call Premier and tell him I got his needles. So I called him. We exchanged numbers earlier. I called him. I said, yo, I got your needles. He was like, yo, I was looking for those needles. I said, tell me where you're gonna be. I'll bring them to you. So he was like, I'm gonna be here in Manhattan, blah, blah, blah. And I went all the way to Manhattan, wherever he was, and I gave him his needles. And that's how me and him really became cool. From that point on, that's been my brother ever since. So me and Preem hung out bunches of times. I've actually mentioned some of it in my epic fails. Me and Guru I've never hung out with Guru. Last thing I'm gonna say on this, I saw Guru in a club in 1991, of course, at this club called the Red Zone that Puffy used to throw. And that was the spot for a second. Everybody in New York know about the Red Zone. And I remember he was sad because he was like, yo, Just to Get a Rep had just blew up. And he was going, yo, I got my first big single and we had all of these shows booked overseas. And then the Gulf War happened. Remember when Iraq invaded Kuwait? Yeah, the Gulf War happened. And all the shows all the overseas travel got canceled. And Guru was going, damn, we had all these shows in Europe. I finally got a hit and all the shows got canceled. I remember he was pissed about that. That was in 91. Outside of that, yeah, to answer your question, I don't have many Guru stories, but I have a ton of Preem stories, a bunch of them that I've mentioned on this channel. Let me scroll down a little bit. I'm going to scroll all the way down. I'm going to miss some people's comments, but Terrell McMillan, what's good? Thank you so much for your contributions to the channel. He says, KP, what's good, bro? As long as we're talking guests, you really need to dig deep and try to pull up Moe Dee. Hell yeah! I'm pretty sure he got some stories, especially battle-wise in his time. I'm going to reach out to my dog, Moe Dee, and see if he'll come on and speak. I would love to talk about the Treacherous 3 Moe Dee. No, we don't really talk. We know most time people talk about Moe Dee, they talk about his solo career, which was great. He was platinum. People don't realize Moe Dee was platinum with How You Like Me Now, Wild Wild West. That album sold 1 million copies. But I grew up with Treacherous 3 Moe Dee. So you're absolutely right. I'm gonna reach out to Moe Dee. I'm reaching out to a few people, y'all. I'm gonna try. I got some surprises coming. And see if he'll come on the channel and kick it with us. Joey Joe says, back in the day, selling 300,000 copies was considered ghetto gold. Hell yeah. You know how much 300,000 copies is? Matter of fact, I believe in some countries like Australia and some other places, 250,000 is silver. Because those that don't know, 500,000 copies is gold. You get a certified gold plaque. And 1 million is platinum. And you get another plaque. And if you sell 2 million, 3 million, it's like 2 times platinum, 3 times platinum. Then if you sell 10 million, which is almost impossible, that's diamond. So I believe that you should get a plaque for silver in America. I believe 250,000 should get you a plaque. It's that hard to sell 250,000 records. It's that hard to sell 100,000 records. I can name you off the top of my head 5, 6 incredible, legendary albums that didn't go gold. That probably sold 300,000. Off the top of my head, I'll go Brand Nubians, One for All is not gold. Pete Rock, CL Smooth, Mecca and the Soul Brother. Black Moon, Enter the Stage is not gold. The first 3 or 4 Gangstar albums aren't gold. Gangstar didn't go gold until, I think, 98. Moments in Time? What was that album called? Moment of Truth? Moment of Truth? I'm bugging. That album went gold. Those incredible Gangstar albums probably sold 300. Return of the Boom Bap is not gold yet. I can go on and on. These are incredible albums, but for some reason, they didn't do it. A lot of it has to do with timing. A lot of it has to do with the record company. I mean, I could do a whole breakdown on what really goes into making a hit record. Maybe one day I'll do that. That's like a long, drawn-out thing. I have like a lot of opinions on that, if y'all really want to hear about it. Dan Mazzarelli said, Audrey, a.k.a. Drake, can't make music. Others do it for him. I disagree with that. I disagree. I have to disagree with Drake. Has made a lot of records and it's written for a lot of different people. I mean, he's had people make records with him. But I could say in the scheme of people making records for people, Drake is small potatoes compared to the ghostwriting and ghost producing and biting that's going on in the years. If you're going to say that Drake is not dope because somebody made records with or for him, then I can name you a whole bunch of people that we love that has to be considered whacker than Drake. Then if that's the criteria, someone else made a record for you, I can name, man, listen. This is a really good one. Corey Flood. Kenny, did you see Eric's sermon on Drink Champs? He said he's a producer, not a beat maker. Which one are you? What a fantastic question, man. You know what? I'm going to have to not go into detail on this because I'll be here for an hour. This is a whole topic for me that's very sensitive to my heart. I consider myself both. I've worn both hats. And I don't like the term beat maker, just like I don't like the term one-hit wonder. People put the moniker beat maker on an artist to diminish him. That's a demeaning statement. You just made the beat, but I produced the song. To me, that's bullshit. I'm saying that's bullshit. There's a difference between a producer and a beat maker, and the rules for R&B are a little bit different than the rules for hip hop. I don't want to get too deep on it right now, but let me just say this. Let's use Quincy Jones as an example. He's not a good example because he is an accomplished, legendary, iconic musician before he was a producer. But let's look at Quincy Jones on Thriller. Quincy Jones didn't play any of the instruments on Thriller. He oversaw the whole making of the album. He got the songwriters together. He got the musicians together. Him and Michael Jackson decided what was going to be on the album. He oversaw the whole process. In R&B or rock, you can be a producer by going, I'm going to bring 10 guys into a room and all of you play me music and I'm going to sit here and decide which one I like. And you go, number 8. That's the song, that's the track I like. Bring number 8 in here. You sing on number 8. That's the song. I produced it. I didn't lift a hand, but I produced that song as far as R&B is concerned. Now, I'm being very generic with it gets deeper than that, but basically that's the gist of it. Hip hop is a little different because the real, when somebody says who produced the song, we mean who made the track, who got on the machine and banged out, who sampled it, who decided to put all of this together. And a lot of times, the beat maker gets no credit or gets bought. The producer buys the track from the beat maker and acts like he made it himself. Or a producer will come in and the beat maker has the whole track playing and go, raise the hi-hat. Yeah, I think the hi-hat should be raised a little bit more. You raise the hi-hat. Yeah, that sounds good. Then he's the producer and the beat maker, you just made the beat. There's no such thing to me as just made the beat. I think both of them are important to making a song, and you can be both the producer and the beat maker in hip hop. But let me ask you this. There's a lot of producers. You put one person in a room by himself. There are certain legendary producers that get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in hip hop to produce records. And if you put them in a room by themselves, you laid out all the equipment that money could buy, and you put them in a room by themselves, you close the door and say, go. Nothing is going to happen. They will sit there. The only thing they can do is pick up the phone and call somebody who knows how to make music and bring them into the studio. That person in there by himself cannot do anything. Now, you take a beat maker, put him in the studio all by himself and all the equipment and close the door and leave him by himself. That person will make you a track. It may not be a hit. Actually, the math says the odds are it won't be a hit, but it will be music. It will be some form of artistic creation. A beat maker can make art. no matter where you put him, if you give him the equipment. A lot of these hip hop producers cannot do that. But they'll look down on a person and say he's just the beat maker. That's bullshit to me. And I've been in every position. I've been the beat maker, a person who did a whole song by myself and got no credit. Song that's come out in stores that you people heard that I did, but I was young and I was just happy to be there. And I didn't know my worth. And because of that, I was regulated to just, Kenny just brought in the beat, or Kenny just gave the record that became this massive thing. I've been that. I've been the producer and beat maker. I've been that. I've never been producer and not been hands-on. That's one thing I've never bought a beat from somebody or been in the studio overseeing somebody else's production. Anytime I've been in the studio, it's working. It's been something that I did. So I said I wasn't going to get long-winded on this, but I have a lot even more to say on this. But you hit a sore spot in my heart, Corey Flood, about this, you know, and other producers. I'm going to have producers on here. We're going to get into it. I think Eric Sermon is a producer and a beat maker. That's my opinion. I don't like this beat. That term came in, that beat maker term came in, to me, it came into effect kind of in the mid-90s when certain producers changed the definition of what a producer is in hip hop. And in order for them to do that, they had to diminish the person. People have no idea what it takes to dig and spend days, weeks, months digging through thousands and thousands of records to find the one dope sample and put it together and find the great drums and put it all together. And it took you months and months and months to get it all together, to bring it to the studio and present it to somebody. And they say, that shit is dope, I'm going to use it. And then you get no credit and they become the person who did it. That's bullshit. I'm going to get off this subject, but I'm a little tight right now, Corey. Damn, we on here a whole hour. I've been running my damn mouth. Sorry, y'all. I just been Cruz, I think you're right about the Fat Boys, like a black and white varsity style bomber. Yeah, I'm not sure if Dapper Dan did that bomber, but the Fat Boys definitely had the Gucci suits and the whole thing. Right, like 85. They was rope chained out Gucci. They was doing it. So it could have been them first. I don't know if they were on the cover of an album though, like BDP. Cecil McGavin said, having a Dapper Dan suit back then put you on the map. Yeah. A Dapper Dan jacket was like $2,000. A hat was like a G. You have a whole suit. First time I saw LL Cool J, and let me plug the book. I wrote about this in the book. If you don't have the book, my brother's name is Kenny. Get the book. It's the origin story of BDP. I go into great detail on our upbringing, me and Chris. That's me and Chris on the cover. I tell the real story, and I also go into some hip hop stories things that I've seen. And in this book, I talk about the first time I ever saw LL Cool J in Latin Quarters. He had on a whole Dapper Dan Gucci suit. He had the hat. It was blue. He had the hat, the jacket, and the leather pants. That outfit must have been like $6,000, $7,000. This was in 87. He had on like a $7,000 outfit in 87. That's probably like a $20,000 outfit today. First time I ever saw LL. Yeah, in order for you to have a Dapper Dan suit, you had to be a drug dealer. Most rappers could. Rappers weren't getting money. Like, you had to be a drug dealer or athlete. McMuck the General says, this is one of the wackest battles ever. For our generation, I mean, we've seen a lot, I would say, yeah, but for this generation, they're losing their shit. This battle has been the number one trending thing on Twitter for days. Kenny, did KRS make a mistake when he said Shan's the DJ and Marley's the MC? On what? Is that the bridge is over? Yeah, E-Money said Dapper Dan said pimps and hustlers were his biggest customers when he first started. Yeah, who could afford those outfits? Nobody. FU2 says, nah, rappers still have their boys with them. King Von. I mean, let me not speak on something I don't know much about, but based on that documentary on King Von that I watched, I mean, he was the real deal. Yeah, rappers still have their boys with them, but if you look at the upper echelon, dudes have security. A lot of times they might not show you the security, you might not see it. But when rappers have concerts and things like that, like dudes might have their boys and they go to the Waffle House, chicken and waffle places. But when you talking like go to an event, dudes be securityed up, man. Especially with all that jewelry and all that stuff they're wearing. Let me see. I'm scrolling down, y'all, because I don't want to. Usually I don't scroll down. I be missing stuff. Like these guys, like y'all still talking about what I said like 20 minutes ago. Here's a good one. Dwayne Moore, Marley said he met BDP first in Queens recording studio and Magic dissed them. Yeah, that's the story it's in the book. That's the story of how that whole beef started. The question was you there? No, I was not there. I would have loved to be there. No, I was not there. I didn't meet Mr. Magic until years later. I met Mr. Magic in like the 90s. And he was mad cool and nice to me. I didn't really know how to even approach him when I saw him. I didn't approach him, he approached me. I didn't even know how to really interact with him because, you know, the beef with BDP was really centered around Mr. Magic. Shan and Marley was really like strays. Magic was the real catalyst for that whole beef. But, you know, years later, they pieced it all out. And the times I saw Mr. Magic, rest in peace to him, he's another radio icon. I didn't even know how to react to him, but he was cool. Divine Existence. Peace, Kenny. The Moe Dee and LL situation happened in St. Louis, Missouri. You're speaking the truth. Yes, I was right there, front row. Am still was such a hip hop fan that I used to watch the Dope Jam tour. I was there with my brother hanging out for like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. I wasn't in BDP. I was just hanging with my brother on the road for 3 weeks. So in that 3 weeks, I probably saw, it was 2.5 weeks. I saw like 10 shows. I would get there from the very beginning. First of all, I would go to every sound check just to watch the artists warm up and rehearse. Then I would come back and I would watch every single performance from the beginning to the end. I think Ice-T went first and Eric B. and Rakim closed out the night. I watched every single show night after night in the front row. I love hip hop that much. So yeah, shout out to Divine Existence. Yeah, I was right there, man. Silver Surfer, talk about King Son's beef, brother. I might do a I might do a lot. I might do a whole story on that. It's not a big story. It's a little story, but it was a story. There was something there for a second. I'm gonna be honest, and I was there. Shout out to King Son. That's the homie. I saw King Son this summer, last summer. I might do that. I might do like a short. So I might do like 3 small BDP beefs because some beefs are not worth like a whole story. But I might do like 2 or 3 in one thing, give you all the whole breakdown. It definitely was something with King Son. I'm gonna scroll all the way down, y'all. Silver Surfer, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Really appreciate it. Let me see. Let me scroll down. Let me scroll down. Gregory Nutter said MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice is better MCs than Drake. Word up, son. Come on, Gregory Nutter, man. Come on, man. I'm not saying Drake is the greatest of all time, but come on. Civil Service said Drake is horrible, whiny, paranoid, baby snake. Wow. This is interesting. Guess who, motherfuckers, say I would have rather heard Drake and Mos Def go at it. That would have been Mos Def does not. Mos Def is on my list of MCs elite talents that don't get mentioned that much, and I do believe it's because he didn't really put out a lot of music relative to other people. How many albums does Mos Def have? Like 2 or 3? Like 3? I think with Black Star, he probably got like 2 or 3, and then by himself, like 1 or 2. Like he has two by himself or 3, but he hasn't. It's been like 20 years. He's put out like maybe 5 albums or something, so he doesn't get mentioned like that. But Mos Def is an elite talent. I wish we got more of Yasin Bey. Common's this to Drake. Sweet is crazy. Yeah, Common went in on Drake. Drake didn't respond. Wasn't that over Serena Williams? Look at me gossiping. I don't know. EB says, imagine if KRS said sorry. Cole sucks. I mean, sorry is tough. Sorry is a tough response. Did he say sorry? I don't know. KRS-One's personality is not sorry. So, you're right. Emma Brown says, mature men don't even battle this way, Kenny. Some of the things that's being said in this battle is really ugly accusations on both sides going back and forth. Real ugly. You know what hurts me about all this? Not hurts me because I don't know none of these guys, but disappoints me that all of these dudes made records together all of these years, big hits. K. Dot and Drake has made songs together, big radio records, big platinum selling records. Rick Ross and Drake made music together. Future and Drake got whole albums together. And all of this time, they never liked them. Which goes back to my theory. Those of you that watch this channel all the time knows what I be talking about when I talk about the music business. And how everybody's a sucker. This is a prime example. Past 10 years, dudes have built mansions with the collaborations they did with Drake. And the minute Drake looks a little vulnerable, dudes come out the woodwork like I never liked him anyway. And look at all of this stuff. These are his friends. With friends like that, who needs enemies? These are his friends. You can't trust nobody in the music business. Everybody's a sucker. That's my opinion. You got a couple people here and there that's cool. They're like unicorns, man. I'm going 99.9% of everybody in the music business is a sucker. That's my opinion. I got a couple that's dogs. I got a couple dogs, dudes, that's my dogs. And y'all know who y'all are out there. Everybody else, there's no way Future and Drake should be in. There should be anybody making a record dissing Drake with Future there. How is that possible unless you never liked him from the beginning? Or y'all had some falling out that was so bad that it's bigger than music. Didn't Drake say in one of his rhymes that every hit record that Rick Ross had was with Drake? I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I guess every top 10 pop song that Rick Ross had was with Drake. That's what Drake is saying. And y'all resorted to this quickly? Once again, I don't know any of these people, so I don't even like talking about this stuff, but it's bad, man. Silver Surfer, your interview with Ced Gee was mesmerizing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Shout out to the legend Ced Gee for coming on the channel. And like I said earlier, for those that might have missed it, I got some more confirmations of some really interesting people to come on the channel. We're just going to work out what Tuesday, or I might move the lives to accommodate certain people. So we might move it to a Monday or a Wednesday. Like if somebody said I can't do Tuesday, but I can do Wednesday, then we're going to push the lives to a Wednesday. You know what I mean? So that we could fit their time in, so that we can get these lives popping. I want to talk to so many people. Dan Mazzarudi says, Michael Jackson was more real than Drake. Jackson used real instruments. What does that mean, real? Because if we say real instruments is the criteria for real, then all of hip hop is whack. Then we sampled everybody. When sampling came in from 1986 on, hip hop has not been real since 86, basically, by that criteria that real is real instruments. I think sampling is an art, and I think there's a real skill in sampling different pieces of elements from different records and combining them into one thing that sounds so good that it rocks the nation and sells millions of copies. I think that's a real skill. First of all, I think anything that you could do to get a hit record is worth it. Not anything, not jerking people illegal. Anything you can do morally to get yourself a hit record, you should do it, because for an artist, the difference between a hit and not having a hit is so astronomical, y'all. You can't even imagine. I've seen artists, I've met artists before they came out, and the difference between them having a hit and not having a hit, you couldn't even imagine. I remember meeting a guy. He was hanging out with Queen Latifah, and he was putting up stickers on the wall. And the sticker said, "You down with OPP?" And I remember seeing the guy, and I was like, "What's up? You coming out with a record?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm dropping my record in a few days." And I was like, "Congratulations. I hope it works out for you." You know what I mean? That artist was trash. 2 weeks later, he had the biggest record in the country, in New York, so from New York for sure. OPP exploded. 2 weeks later, I saw Vin Rock in a club, and he was like, I can't believe it. We did a show, and the whole place was jumping. This is 2 weeks after I saw Church putting stickers on the wall. I didn't even know who he was. That's how much a hit record could change your career. So I think I'm in a tangent right now, but anything that you could do, sampling instruments, a cappella, banging two rocks together, monkey playing a banjo, anything you could do to get yourself a hit record if you're an artist, I think you should do it artistically in your morals. I think if you're somebody if you're a woman who does not believe in showing your body, but you're forced to show your body for a hit, like something like that, I don't agree with. But whatever's in your moral code, and you should do it to get a hit because it's that important. Even for BDP, I've seen the difference in our shows when we've had a hit record out and not a hit. Even with our whole catalog, even like in 1995, we were touring nonstop. We was touring nonstop in the 90s, every week. And even in 95, when MCs Act Like They Don't Know came out, there was a bump. We had mad albums, mad classics, mad shows in the game 9 years, but when MCs Act Like They Don't Know came out, it was still a bump. And you could notice it. And then when Step Into a World came out, it was almost like KRS was a new artist. That record was so big for us. This is 10 years after this is 11 years after KRS-ONE came out. He had his biggest record commercially, Step Into a World. And the difference in our shows was gigantic. So whatever you can do to get a hit record, get it. So, if you use real instruments and that's your thing, do it. If you sample, do that, man. We've been on here an hour and a half, y'all. Do you guys realize for the past few months, I've been trying to keep this show to 1 hour? And every week I fail. I'm going to jump all the way down to the bottom, y'all, so I can just see if I could just catch something before I get out of here. That Ice Cube and KRS battle should have happened. It would have been one of the greatest of all time. Yeah, it would have. Like I mentioned on this show before, there was a little friction with Ice Cube. Now, I would not call it beef. It wasn't a beef, but it was like a little friction there. But they got together and spoke about it and cleared the air, which was great. Like two men, like two generals, they spoke, and I was not at that. I was not privy to that conversation, but I heard about it, and they cleared the air. So yeah, people talking about Ice Cube and KRS. Oh yeah, I should have stepped to Ice Cube, but it wasn't. Some things are not beefs, all out beefs. Some things are like little disagreements or like little frictions, and you talk that out. We've had tons of frictions, y'all. Oh, I wish I could get into it with y'all. I'm gonna get into it as we go along. There's some things that's happened, y'all, that I've seen with my own two eyes that you guys are not even gonna believe. When I tell you the story, you're gonna go, Kenny's lying. That's a lie, because your favorite artist that you love so much, you're not gonna believe how they really are. And you're gonna think I'm lying. All right, I'm going to get out of here. And we're going to stay. Let's do 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I'm going to try to get to as many comments as I can. This is funny. MMA Clifford. Actually, I'm glad that Ice Cube and KRS settled things. To me, that's like Superman and Batman beef. Yeah. Word. And Ice Cube was one of my top 5 favorite artists of all time, too, by the way. I love Ice Cube. So that was whack to me. Um, let's see. This is random. MMA Crossfire says Jalen Brunson reminded me of Kevin Johnson. He's way. Jalen Brunson is doing some historic things right now in New York City. Kevin Johnson was nice. He's a point guard that people never mention, but Jalen Brunson has really got New York City energized right now. It's great to see. New York. I think the NBA. There's certain cities in the NBA that has to be good. I think LA, New York, and probably Boston. You need those cities to have good teams. When those cities are down, it feels like the NBA is off. That's just my opinion. Somebody, Corey Flood said, "Cool Moe Dee, let's go." That was the name of the record. Wow, listen. Damon Clark, yo, Kenny, I'm reading your book, second time. Yo, I really appreciate that, man. If those who don't got the book, get the book. What was some of your favorite comic books and when you and Chris were kids? We read Marvel and DC, but Marvel was really it. Jack Kirby, shout out to the iconic cartoonist Jack Kirby, who created many of the Marvel superheroes that we all love, was our favorite artist. We loved Jack Kirby. Chris loves him even more than me. Chris was we both were super comic book heads when we were like 9, 10, 11, 12, like that. And I think our favorites, I like the Avengers. The Avengers were Spider-Man, of course. I like the Ant-Man. I liked Marvel a lot. DC was cool. I mean, I like Superman, Batman, Flash, Green Lantern was cool. But Marvel was my thing. I didn't have like one guy, but I loved Ant-Man a lot. I like Captain America. The Avengers. Damn, might as well. Ice Cube losing to Cypress Hill. They had some beef. I do believe Cypress Be Real accused Ice Cube of stealing a song from them. A few people have accused Ice Cube of stealing their songs. Inspired Servant Artwork. Thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. I really appreciate it. I have enjoyed pescatarianism since Beef dropped in 1990. Shout out to Blastmaster KP. Were you influenced by your brother's diet? Absolutely. The day I heard beef was the last time I had beef. Yes. Chris never, in our crew, he never says to eat what I eat. He just puts it out there. I remember we were on tour in 1990. We went to Europe and we had a personal chef. Shout out to Slew. And he used to cook for everybody, but the menu was more like what KRS like, a lot of fish and vegetables and stuff. And back then I was fresh out of college. I was like, man, I told Slew, I said, look, Slew, you don't even have to cook for me, man. I'm not going to eat none of that stuff that Chris eat. I don't eat that shit. I'm like, I'm going to Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's. You could cook for the rest of them. And I was so young and stupid. And I remember Slew was like, he was Jamaican. He's like, Kenny, my goal is to get you to eat my food. That's what he said. He commenced to start making all kind of dishes and broke my back. He had me eating all kind of stuff, like string beans and shit I never eat. So shout out to Slew, our chef on tour. And yes, I've been a pescatarian ever since that song Beef as well. I think that's one of KRS-One's greatest records. I think that's KRS-One's greatest one of his. Go back and listen to how he broke down beef. Incredible. Record never gets mentioned. All right, y'all, we're gonna get out of here. I'm gonna scroll down. I'm just looking at things. Joey Joe said, I hate it, hit him up because you dissed Mob Deep. I lose all respect for you. Hey, I mean, they had something going on. Tupac, I guess, didn't like how they jumped into something. I'm not sure. Third Base and Professor Griff had some beef. Yes, they did. There was a lot of beefs in hip hop, man. Let me scroll down. I'm gonna scroll way down, y'all. I'm gonna look at a lot of these comments after the fact because we've been talking here, and I'm about to get off. Any stories about Jazzy Jeff? He doesn't get talked about as one of the greatest DJs. I think he does, Emma Brown. Jazzy Jeff is right at the top to me, is the greatest technicians that ever lived. You go back and listen to their first album, that cut live at Union Square. You got to understand that back in those days, New York wasn't trying to hear nobody that wasn't from New York. We wasn't trying to hear you at all. Even if you were from New Jersey, which is right across the water, nobody was trying to hear you. And Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince came into New York City Union Square Club, which was the Mecca. And Jazzy Jeff ripped that down. Go back and listen to that. Jazzy Jeff live at Union Square off their first album. I think it's called He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper. Shout out to Jazzy Jeff. I met him once or twice. I can't say I know him, but I met him once or twice. Cool dude. There's so many comments I'm missing, y'all. Damn. I'm gonna get off soon, y'all. I'm just scrolling down. I hate missing all the comments, man. We should be talking about so much. Stella Shine and KP, love these live conversations, my brother. Thank you so much. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, God willing. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. we are here. We don't have a format really. We just be talking about whatever. And we're going to have more guests on here. We do Ballhead Buchanan. Do you still have the single from the hip hop group The Nation? No, I don't still have that record. I know what you're talking about. Me and my good friend Pooh, aka Glenn, who you know very well. Of course I do. We went to high school together. That's my little dude. We ran into you on the West 4th and gave you a record. Do you remember that? Absolutely, I remember that day. You handed me the record in my hand. I don't even still have most of my record collection, but shout out to my man Glenn Harding, aka Pooh. Basketball Heads is his channel on Instagram. Wow, y'all talking about back. Rayford Austin or Rod Strickland better New York City high school point guard. Rayford Austin is a little past my time, but I saw Rod Strickland in high school, man. Rod Strickland in high school was all kind of problems. I saw him, and he was ridiculous. I don't want to get too deep with it because I'm about to get off. Let me scroll down. Damn, it's mad comments. Sorry, y'all. If you left a comment and I didn't get to see it or talk about it, I'm sorry. I'm gonna get to them. I'm gonna look at them after this is over. I spend like about an hour or two just looking at all the comments. Kenny, you keep forgetting to have an episode dedicated to how whack the music industry is. You promised over 4 weeks ago. I did. It's really like levels that you have to really get into. It's like levels of how whack the music industry is. But I say it to say I'm going to get into a lot of it, man. I want to get into it with some of the artists that's here so you can hear their sides too, their horror stories. Damn, look at all of this comments. I'm gonna do 2 more comments and we out, y'all. 2 more and we out. Let's see. Let's see. I see you guys are talking about the beat making process. Dartmouth said, do you think a 1993 BDP would have co-signed a rapper like Drake? It depends on what he was doing. Like, let me give you an example. Here's an example. Tell me what y'all think. I'm going to get off, but just think about this. Think about Nice and Smooth. Think about Smooth B. Shout out to my dog, Smooth B. Smooth B in 89, 90 was singing. Nice and Smooth is here to groove you and show you how, what's the side, how to flow. Nice and Smooth are good to go. Smooth B was singing and rapping at the same time. He sung a lot of hooks. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, he was singing all through those Nice and Smooth albums and rapping. I think Drake could have been similar to Smooth B. That's why I put Drake in. I think if Drake was in the 90s, he would be like a Smooth B. Singing, rapping, hooks. Drake could have easily been TJ Swan with Biz Markie. Nobody beats the biz, nobody beats the biz. Or make the music with your mouth, biz. Like, Drake could have went around singing hooks like that. He could have been Nate Dogg. You know what I'm saying? These are all people that we respect and love, had massive success in the 80s and 90s. I think Drake could have been like that. Would he have been like, on the top? Would he have been like LL Cool J or somebody big like that? I don't know. But could he have made I Need Love? Sure, he could have. Could Drake have made Bonita Applebum? That sounds like he could have made that record. Stuff like that. I think he could have did it. That's just my opinion. All right, y'all. I'm gonna get off. I'm gonna look at these comments. For those of you that left comments that I didn't see, I am so sorry. New York City basketball history. Did you produce Heather B. whole album? Yeah, the first one, the one on Taking Mine, I did 9 of the 10 songs. The Beat Miners, shout out to Mr. Walt and Evil D. They did 1 song. I did almost all of Heather B's album. All right, we out. Peace, y'all. I'm looking at these comments. I hate missing comments. That's why I hate, there's a lot of good topics. I want to get to everybody. A million of them. All right. I'm going to get out of here. I'll catch you guys next week, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to sit down and look at the comments and see what I missed. All right. Okay, I'm just looking. All right, y'all. I'm just looking. Peace, everybody. I'll catch y'all next week. Stay tuned for the guest that's coming up. And I'm going to get out of here. Peace, y'all.